The special system has always been a staple of the Fallout games. Strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. These are the stats you use to conquer the nightmare that is the Fallout franchise. But what if you limited yourself to just one of these stats? The first thing I did was immediately shove Nate aside, buffed the heck up, and got ready for my big night on the town. Unfortunately, several things went wrong before my day even started. First, a pesky salesman rocked up. I told him my name was Susan Strong, and I filled out his dumb paperwork. Notice I didn't max out my strength straight away, more on that later. Secondly, I'm pretty sure my husband is cheating on me, because who the cigarettes are these? Thirdly, my baby would not stop screaming. And lastly, and perhaps most inconveniently of all, war was declared. I ran to the vault, stared so lovingly at my husband, Boston exploded, and took probably the best nap I've had since the baby was born. The nap was unsurprisingly interrupted when Nate was killed. I eventually exited the cryo chamber, whooped a bunch of rad roaches, grabbed the pit boy, and exited vault 111. A quick rundown of the rules of this playthrough. First, I cannot upgrade any of the other 6 stats when I level up. I also cannot choose any perks relating to those stats. Because this is my first playthrough of this kind of challenge, I'm not limiting myself to melee, unarmed, or heavy gun weapons, since those are the types of weapons that damage output is affected by these perks. I headed back home when my old friend Codsworth recommended I check out Concord. A fine idea, but first I need to finish maxing out my strength. I do this by grabbing the Your Special book in Sean's old room and setting out to find the strength bobblehead in the Mass Fusion building. On my way there, I stop at the Gorski cabin to get this magazine that permanently marks Diamond City on my map, so it's not rendered useless later when I talk to Mama Murphy. I make my way back through the northern zone of the Commonwealth, get killed by a bear, get revenge on the bear, and take my patented, wrong highway technique, in which I climb up the highway you later meet Ricky Dalton on, scavenge, fight more ghouls, say, oops, wrong highway, and proceed to take the one directly across the gap. The gunners at Mass Fusion proved a little challenging at such a low level, mainly due to the energy weapons, this asshole and a missile launcher, which I used to help kill this asshole in power armor. I grabbed the bobblehead to max out my strength, and fast traveled back to the Red Rocket truck stop to continue on to Concord. I annihilated the raiders attacking Preston, the Deathclaw fell easy enough and I chose to get the hell away from Preston as soon as possible. Heading to Diamond City now, I stopped off at the Drumlin Diner in an attempt to bring peace. Turns out, I only brought death when I discovered the real threat I faced in this playthrough: charisma checks. Trudy and Patrick died, horribly I might add. I picked up an emergency broadcast and decided to help out the Brotherhood of Steel at the Cambridge police station. Seeing them fight off the ghouls and later the Sunset Archjets, it was glorious. I'd never seen such strength, especially when Dance took a face full of rocket flames because he didn't put on his helmet for some reason. I had made my decision. I was with the Brotherhood for this challenge. I continued to forget about finding my son and search for the lost patrol. It went well, until I ran into the super mutants. I always have trouble with this bit. Eventually I found Palladus Brandon, but because of my total lack of charm, I failed to convince him to rejoin the Brotherhood. Feeling sorry for the little guy, I backtracked a bit and helped Preston out with a settlement. There was only one settlement that needed help, and there will be only one settlement that needs help. I was sent to kill the raiders hanging out at Walden Pond when my game crashed. Woo! But nevertheless, I found a personal favourite weapon of mine, Big Jim, and reported my success back to Preston. And finally, I made it to Diamond City, only to have to leave immediately to rescue Nick Valentine. Now since I was superhumanly strong, I thought I'd take on Swan at level 12. This was a mistake. Until it wasn't. The Triggerman in Park Street Station used many automatic weapons to try to take me down. It's the toughest thing about strength playthroughs. You become a glass cannon. You can exert so much damage, but you just can't take anything. I found Nick, tried to talk my way out of a fight with Skinny Malone, failed spectacularly, and exited Vault 114 a bloodied mess. Back at Diamond City, I told Nick my story, tried to charisma check my way through the whole getting the key quest, oh god, when will I learn, waited 10 hours and just stole it instead. Together with Dogmeat, Nick and I tracked down Mr. Cornflakes to Fort Hagen, where I got briefly lost. The synths in here combined my 2 biggest weaknesses just to piss me off, so I took out my frustration on Kellogg with a fat man. That did not end well. I arose from the dead, bonked Kellogg on the head, and took his sweet, gooey brain to Dr. Amari to do some dumb memory mumbo jumbo. Now for the real test of strength. The glowing sea. I fought Deathclaw after Deathclaw after Deathclaw after Deathclaw and died many times. Sometimes the bug helped me out, and sometimes they betrayed me. Damn, that hurts. I made my way to Virgil's cave, then moseyed on down to Green Tech Genetics, where I got my revenge of those gunner bastards for that stuff they did to me at Mass Fusion before. Of course it did not go down as easily as I expected, but I still got the chip and forgot you had to go to the railroad to get it analyzed, so instead of doing that, I took a ride of Dance on a vertibird, totally ignoring his speech, and then my brain crashed again. that's karma for you. I had a chat with the crew of the Pridwen, blasted some super mutants, and resumed the main quest by arriving at the Old North Church to a very unfriendly welcome. Now, I really liked the Deliverer, the silenced 10mm handgun you get from doing the first mission for the railroad. So I had a chat with Deacon, and we took on 100 Gen 1 synths with absolutely no issues. I left the railroad behind forever to build some dumb big machine that always takes far longer than I expected. I made it into the Institute, met the worst character in this faction, followed by the second worst, and then the best. And because I had failed yet another important charisma check, I had to do some stupid side quest with Dr. Lee to recruit her back into the Brotherhood. Next was the actuators to get Liberty Prime moving. Nothing exciting here really, I was a bit disappointed. But then I went back to the glowing siege to secure the nukes for the Sentinel site. It's here where I found this game changer, a plasma-induced, fully modded minigun. Hell yeah! I wanted to share my exciting news with Nick, but he was, for some reason, unresponsive, so I stabbed him a bunch, and then nothing happened, so I moved on. I returned to the Pridwen, and what's this, a plot twist? My new boss had informed me that Dance was actually a synth, and needed to be destroyed. I tracked down that traitorous son of a machine, and I just can't do it. I love this guy. I may be superhumanly strong, but real strength comes not from muscles, but heart. So I took a bunch of great men tests, talked down Maxon, and for the first time in this playthrough, I passed a charisma check. With one synth life saved, I made my way back to the Pridwen, got promoted, talked to Captain Kells, and declared war on the railroad, condemning thousands of synths to death. Armed with my minigun and decked out in power armor, I went back to the Old North Church and killed the leaders of the railroad, one by one. As usual, Gloria was the only one who was even a remote issue. Dez mentioned some guy named Sam, and Drummer Boy isn't even on this priority kill list. That's very funny to me. With those hippie freaks out of the way, a quick chat with Ingram sent me back to where it all began, mass fusion. Real quick, I do feel like I am super over leveled at the moment. Just looking at my perks. These synths don't stand a chance. To make it a bit harder, I did try limiting myself to melee weapons, but thanks to the Furious Power Fist I got from Swan, the Sentry Bot was no problem, although I did have to use a Cryot Mine to help out with the Assaultrons. I felt so accomplished now, smashing through robots and destroying synths. When I first arrived at Mass Fusion, I was so easily killed by gunners, but now I was almost invincible. Nothing could beat me. I started at Liberty Prime and we made our way out to the Institute. Well, we would have had the stupid thing not blown me up first. I said screw it and just fast traveled there instead. I fought off some synths and was a little disappointed to find out that all Liberty Prime does was just make a small hole in the ground. We entered the Institute, lived out my dream of fighting a gorilla with nothing but a combat knife, had a sword fight with a uniquely named synth, and shot a bunch of unarmed nerds for no experience points. Just a wonderful day out with friends, really. I had a final talk with Sean, trying to justify my actions without attempting any charisma checks because I know I just failed them anyway, and moved on to the reactor. I increased the game's difficulty to hard just for the final stretch, and realized the reactor room was a nightmare. I took so much damage so quickly, but thanks to my big guns and rooted perks, I was able to take down 2 legendary synths and place the charge on the reactor. On my way out, I realized with great strength comes great responsibility, and took Synth Sean to live with me. I took one last look at the Commonwealth, and then I blew it all to hell. And with that I beat Fallout 4 with just strength alone. Alright, overall a pretty easy challenge. Strength's a really great stat to use in this game. Early game, low level enemies die almost instantly, and thanks to weapon mods and several multiplying strength boosting perks, this makes late game enemies just far too easy. The only real drawback is the lack of defense, because health is related to the endurance stat. I died many times to automatic laser weapons. For the next challenge, I'm definitely starting the game on hard, just for that added challenge. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, feel free to like and subscribe, and comment if you have a fun idea for a challenge that you'd like to see me take on in the future. I plan to do more Fallout 4, The Last of Us, Bioshock, and maybe even Pokemon videos, straying away from that whole first-person shooter survival genre. But until then, this has been Beating Fallout 4 with strength alone. Have a great day.